The Long Island serial killer case began with a single search along a quiet stretch of Ocean Parkway, where the Atlantic wind carried the scent of salt and decay through the dunes. Officers were not looking for multiple victims that December day. They were searching for one missing woman when they stumbled upon something far darker. The discovery of human remains near Gilgo Beach transformed a routine missing person search into one of the most haunting criminal investigations in modern New York history. The shoreline, usually dotted with fishermen and joggers, became a cordoned-off grid of evidence markers and camera flashes. Detectives moved carefully through the sand, their boots sinking slightly with each step as they documented every fragment of bone and cloth. The sound of waves mixed with the low hum of generators powering floodlights that cut through the early winter dusk. Reporters gathered along the roadside, their breath visible in the cold air, while police radio chatter echoed from parked cruisers. What began as a local search quickly drew state and federal attention, as the scope of what lay beneath the sand became clear. The name Long Island serial killer soon entered headlines, and with it came a wave of fear that rippled from the barrier islands to the suburban streets inland. Residents locked doors earlier, watched the news longer, and wondered how long the killer had been walking among them. When the first remains were found, the Suffolk County Police Department established a perimeter stretching several hundred yards along the marshy edge of Gilgo Beach. The terrain was uneven, a mix of tall grass, sand, and tangled brush that made every step deliberate. Officers marked evidence with small orange flags, each one fluttering in the wind as crime scene photographers moved methodically from point to point. K-9 units were brought in, their handlers guiding them through narrow paths between dunes while forensic technicians sifted through soil samples. The air was cold enough to numb fingers, forcing investigators to rotate in shifts to maintain precision. Nearby, traffic slowed as curious drivers tried to glimpse the activity beyond the flashing lights. Detectives worked into the night, their flashlights creating narrow cones of light that revealed more than anyone wanted to see. The discovery of additional remains in close proximity deepened the sense of urgency. Commanders set up a mobile operations trailer where maps of the coastline were pinned with colored markers indicating each recovery site. Radios crackled with updates as teams coordinated searches along adjacent stretches of beach. The process was slow, deliberate, and heavy with the knowledge that each new find represented another life lost. By dawn, the beach had transformed into a controlled scene of quiet chaos. Uniformed officers, forensic vans, and the rhythmic sound of waves breaking against a shoreline that had become a crime scene. As the investigation expanded, detectives began retracing missing person reports from across Long Island and neighboring boroughs. Many of the victims were young women who had vanished after arranging meetings through online services, a detail that shaped the early investigative focus. Analysts compiled digital records, phone logs, and GPS data, cross-referencing them with the timeline of discoveries. In the lab, forensic specialists examined fibers, hair samples, and trace materials recovered from the sand, carefully sealing each item in labeled evidence bags to preserve chain of custody. The process was painstaking, requiring weeks of cataloging and comparison. Meanwhile, the community reacted with a mix of fear and solidarity. Candlelight vigils were held in nearby towns, where families of the missing stood together under the glow of handheld candles, their faces illuminated by both grief and determination. Local officials urged caution, while neighborhood watch groups formed to share information and keep eyes on unfamiliar vehicles. Media vans lined the parkway, their satellite dishes pointed skyward, broadcasting updates that reached living rooms across the country. Detectives conducted interviews in modest suburban homes, in motels, and in dimly lit parking lots, piecing together fragments of testimony that hinted at patterns but offered few certainties. Each lead generated new paperwork, new theories, and new frustration as the killer remained unseen. The investigation stretched through seasons, the beach changing from frozen dunes to humid summer sand. Yet the mystery endured. Over time, the case evolved into a complex web of overlapping jurisdictions, competing theories, and public scrutiny. Law enforcement agencies from local precincts to federal units contributed resources, but coordination was often strained by differing priorities and leadership changes. Early suspects were questioned, their properties searched, vehicles impounded, and digital devices seized for analysis. Yet each promising lead seemed to dissolve under the weight of insufficient evidence or conflicting timelines. The media's relentless coverage amplified every rumor, turning speculation into nightly headlines. Forensic technology advanced during the years that followed, allowing cold case units to revisit evidence with new DNA techniques and digital mapping tools. Analysts reconstructed call records, comparing cell tower data to known movements along Ocean Parkway. Some investigators believed the killer might have been familiar with law enforcement tactics, given the precision of disposal sites and the avoidance of detection for so long. Others focused on behavioral profiling, building psychological composites that suggested a methodical, organized offender. Theories multiplied, from lone predator to multiple perpetrators, but none could be proven conclusively. Public pressure mounted as anniversaries passed and families demanded answers. Each press conference brought cautious optimism, followed by silence. The case became both a symbol of investigative persistence and a reminder of how elusive justice can be when evidence is scattered across time, tide, and terrain. Years later, the legacy of the Gilgo Beach investigation remains etched into the collective memory of Long Island. For residents who lived through the height of the fear, the sound of helicopters over the dunes still recalls those tense days of searching. Some families have found partial closure through identification of remains, while others continue to wait for confirmation, their hope sustained by the promise of advancing forensic science. The beach itself has returned to its quiet rhythm, waves rolling in, gulls circling overhead. But beneath the surface lies a history that cannot be erased. Detectives, both retired and active, still revisit the case files, reviewing photographs and reports that have yellowed at the edges. New technology offers fresh possibilities: genetic genealogy, enhanced imaging, and digital pattern analysis that may one day connect the final pieces. Yet the human cost remains the true measure of this story. The victims, once anonymous, are now remembered by name in memorials and community gatherings. Their families speak not of fear, but of persistence, urging that no case be forgotten. The investigation continues, shaped by patience and the quiet determination of those who refuse to let the truth fade with the tide. In the end, the mystery endures, part crime, part cautionary tale, and wholly a reminder of the fragile line between safety and the unknown.